Okay, good afternoon. Last week at this time, we spoke about our team from week 1 to week 2 needing to make significant progress. I thought we did make progress in a number of areas last week in all 3 phases, offensively, defensively, and special teams. Still some areas of concern. I think the one that's evident is just our overall depth. And, the only way that you improve that is develop your players and recruit. So that is what it is. But, depth is a concern right now as we continue to move forward and our quality of opponents continue to increase, the physicality of the games continue to increase. That obviously is a concern. I think our overall style of play is still developing, by which we want to play defense, the way we want to play offense, the way we want to play special teams. It's our players understanding consistency and performance and taking pride in their performance, and not just on game day, but throughout the course of the week of preparation. And we had a lot of individuals who had great performances perform that way. In practice, we had some individuals who, I was a little disappointed in their performance, and it was the way that they practiced. And we have to learn to come to work. In order to get better, you have to come to work each and every day with a hard hat mentality. And our players are getting there. I think they understand that. I think, we had about anything and everything that could occur throughout the course of a game occur. We had to suffer through some adversity, some momentum swings, and that's all mental conditioning. It's how you embrace sudden change. And, about 2 or 3 minutes to go in the in the first half, we suffered all that, but I liked our mindset. I liked our focus. At halftime, there wasn't any panic, and our team needed to suffer some of that. They needed to go through that. I think it's also our players understanding the complementary plays, how each play sets off of each other. There's good examples and there's poor examples. So the first example is in the special teams game. We down a punt at the 1-yard line. And next possession, Justin Coleman, interception, touchdown, changes the complexion of the game. 3rd and 1, we don't get, which is unacceptable. And then they come back and they drive the ball and score a touchdown. Momentum's changing. It's 3rd down. We throw a pass and it's dropped that could have resulted in a touchdown. That's points off the board. We punt the ball. Boom. They score. And then at the end of the game, we throw a deep ball. Our receiver has to go and high point it. Quarterback's got to get it out there. And then we give up a block punt, which is flat out inexcusable, especially on a 2-man rush. And those are things, that each play sets up. And like I told our team, is a game can be influenced by 2 to 3 plays that can make a difference. Really 4 to 6 plays can make a difference in a season, and you never know which plays those are going to be. And that's why you have to be dialed in, you have to be locked in on each and every snap. But I did think our team took strides. I thought we progressed. As we all know, going to play the number 2 team in the country. They're 31-3 at home in the last 5 years, 4 consecutive BCS bowl games. And they're as good as advertised, probably the most complete team I've seen in a number of years to date. Team speed, everything that you think of when you think of Oregon comes to your mind. Very, very athletic quarterback who can throw the football, make plays with his legs. Great team speed on the perimeter, great running back, physical offensive line. And defensively, very, very physical, very skilled in the secondary. And then where you really notice it is in the special teams. Our special teams game, just from a speed standpoint alone, is going to be challenged this week. So I'll answer any questions you may have.
Butch, you talk about mental conditioning a lot. Is that more paramount than ever when you're playing a team like Oregon with such big play potential?
Absolutely. We call it mental conditioning for success in everything that we do, and it's controlling the mind. It's not only talking about a physical presence, but a mental presence. And, how do we respond? First of all, first road game with this football team. A number of individuals will be making their first road trip, and what an environment. the week of preparation that it's going to take of going on the road from just let alone a communicative standpoint. But, being able to handle sudden change and not get down, and that's that confidence, that's that, don't look up at the scoreboard. It's leadership, all that goes into that.
Butch, how do you talk to your guys about being big underdogs, or do you?
Well, I think it gets back to focusing on the process. And obviously, they're a great football team. It's a tremendous, tremendous challenge, but it's also a great opportunity. And we have to have a great week of preparation. And, we talked about mental conditioning. That toughness is going to be on display. We're going to have to be able to withstand without substituting 7, 8, 9 plays in a row. Can our defensive front play winning football for 8, 9 plays in a row without substituting? Can we get lined up fast and decipher the call and execute our assignment when you can't hear, you can't communicate, you're on the road, you're in a hostile environment, you're in a different environment that nobody's used to even being in. That's all part of that mental toughness, that mental conditioning. So it's all going to be on display, and a lot of our younger players are going to have to grow up in a hurry.
You like to play up-tempo yourself, but this is obviously a whole different level. How difficult is it just kind of replicate that to prepare for that, or is it just kind of, you have to experience it personally? Yeah,
well, each offense has its little nuances and their, little differences in their style of play. But our defense has been practicing, against it since spring. But, they do a great job of mixing their tempos up. And I think the thing that they do a great job is they create space in everything that they do. And it's space and pace. That's the way they play. It's pace and space, pace and space. And, so we're going to have to be great one-on-one tacklers. We're going to have to win our one-on-one matchups, and they do a great job in the return game as well of creating space and letting their athletes go to work. But, also with Oregon, they're not a finesse football team. They're a physical football team. So, again, they have depth, and it's probably the most complete Oregon football team I've seen in a number of years. When you look at the returning starters that they have on offense and defense, you can see that, and they've done a great job recruiting as well.
Butch, obviously there's a difference in speed, but how would you assess your defense's ability to play in space the first 2 games thus far?
Well, I think our tackling has improved, but again, we missed, I believe we had 5 missed tackles last week, and we can't have that. And missed tackles are a direct correlation to big plays. And so again, the speed level is going to be different. The space is going to be different, and we have to continue to work on that. And a lot of it is just fundamentals. It's running your feet. It's having a great base. It's keeping your head up. It's lowering your sights. The other thing that they're gonna challenge us again is our overall eye discipline. Did we improve from game 1 to game 2 with our eye discipline? Yes. Is it where it needs to be to play winning football and championship football? No, not anywhere where it needs to be. And we're going to be challenged with their play action game and all the tempos and all the different things going on Saturday.
Butch, I think since 2011, your team maybe forced the most turnovers at the Division I level. What do you do in practice? How do you go about emphasizing that on a day-in, day-out basis? It's
a standard by which we live by each and every day. You have to coach it. You have to teach it every single day. We even do a ball disruption video. And just creating habits, and Dontavius Sapp, I spoke about it after the game, was textbook. We had a gang tackle. He started the lawnmower, ripped the ball out, and then recovered it. And then there's also a technique to what we call ground recovery. There's a technique to scoop and score, knuckles on the ground. So you could see some of those fundamentals and some of those habits taking place. That's some of the progression or the progress that we made from game 1 to game 2. But obviously we're going to be challenged that much more. But we live it every day, and we take great pride of it in our program.
Did you make them maybe start a drill over last week because their performance in that wasn't acceptable?
Absolutely. It's by the way we run to the football. It's the ball disruptions. It's simple things as impacting the quarterback. And everyone thinks, how do you impact the quarterback? Well, hits on the quarterback or sacks. Well, there's more things than just impacting the quarterback. It's mirroring the offhand of the quarterback. It's getting your hand up in the throwing lane. And those are all things that you have to practice over and over and over again to form those championship habits, that we talk about. And we're still working progress yet. We're not still habitually there where it needs to be. But again, that's been the staple of our football teams in the past, and also taking care of the football as well. We teach a lot off of pictures from the game, because I think pictures speak 1,000 words.
What's on that block punt? What was the error? What was the mistake there?
Just a fundamental aspect of not squaring the defender up, two-man rush. I'm responsible for it. I coach the punt, and we've had very few punt blocks in over, I want to say, 15 years of running this punt. And, you know, the individual was very prideful. It was a mistake, and we'll get it corrected. And it was just a fundamental. We're supposed to take him on square. We didn't. We picked the side, and he squeezed through. The Shields didn't do a good job of covering it. And we spend as much time on punt as any aspect, as you guys know, in our football program. And again, that's inexcusable.
Coach, can you talk about their ability to break off a big play and your need, I guess, to not let that snowball if that happens
Right.
on a big play?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a mindset. They're going to get their plays. You know, they're going to make their big plays. That's a function of what they do. That's part of their offense. But it's not letting one big play equal 2, equal 3, equal 4, and have a snowball effect. And that's part of that mental conditioning. You know, we have to force them and make them drive the football on us, and that's very challenging. You just have to look at their body of work this year, but not just this year, but over the last 3, 4, 5 years. And so, again, it's staying the course. You know, it's focusing one snap at a time, just one snap at a time, and that's going to be at a premium Saturday.
Which a lot of talk is always on Oregon's offense, but their defense seems to be really efficient for the amount of time they're on the field. What do you see them do well to not give up as many points compared to the amount of time they're on the field?
Well, you're exactly right. You just hit it. As when I talked about, you know, complementary football and plays, also they're playing great complementary football as a team. You know, each phase complements each other. You know, defensively, they're physical, they're athletic, they run to the football. They have disruptive quickness up front. This is an explosive defensive line. Their linebackers are active, and they can play man coverage. And so, you know, when I said a complete football team, everyone, when they think of Oregon, they think of offense, and they think of skill, and they think of fast-paced. But really, they're well coached. They have an identity, and their identity is found in all three phases.
Coach, you mentioned they're well coached. When Kelly left, a lot of folks expected them to maybe take a step down. That hasn't seemed to happen. What have you seen from watching them on tape, especially from their coaching standpoint?
Well, I've said it is, you know, the great programs, they win with consistency and continuity. You know, and if you look at their coaching staff, they've had that consistency and continuity. So the teaching is the same. Even, you know, with Chip leaving, you know, it hasn't changed much. And they've done a great job. And like I said, I look at the fundamental aspect of their football team. And, you know, we spoke about a lot of times when you play fast, the thing that's compromised are your fundamentals. And I don't see this with this football team. And I think they've been on the cutting edge in college football, you know, from the sports science part of it, you know, of having the resources available to their players, you know, being able to monitor, you know, are they, you know, where are they at with taking care of their bodies and sleep and nutrition and all that. So I think they've been a step ahead in that world, and I think it all shows.
Coach, you've wanted to play an up-tempo game, but obviously you're not trying to out Oregon.
Right.
How difficult is it to play at different tempos with this young team?
Well, we've practiced that a lot, and so, you know, I always say it's always easier to slow down than it is to speed up, and we're going to play our brand of football. You know, we'll mix our tempos up, but you know, we're going to do whatever it takes to win a football game, and it's going to be it's going to take a phenomenal effort. But again, our kids are very prideful, and I know we're looking forward to the challenge, but we have to do a great job of really putting our players in positions to succeed and win their one-on-one matchups. It's going to be a great challenge, but you know, the tempo part of it, of mixing the tempos up, that won't be an issue.
You always do a lot of different things in practice, making noise, talking on the microphone. Do you have to do anything different this week with the environment in Oregon?
No, we just have to continue to use the tools that we use, you know, and, you know, communication, again, is going to be at a premium. And it's one of the loudest stadiums in the country. And so, you know, I think it's a great opportunity, and I think it's a great deal in developing this football team to be able to go on the road in a place like Oregon, that it's extremely difficult to play the venue that it is and perform at a championship level. And everyone has to bring their A game. And so we'll prepare our players just like we do each and every week. You know, we'll have the controlled chaos. We'll make periods where it's, you know, it's challenging. Where it's really difficult to really simulate game conditions against Oregon is your scout teams. You know, that's where it's going to be a challenge for our defense, and we're going to have to find some creative measures in terms of really getting them to finish the play and then get back and get the call and get lined up. And I think that's the thing that we can't lose sight of, is it's still about finishing plays. I think sometimes there's a mindset that, you know, we got to get lined up, we got to get lined up, we got to get lined up, that players forget the finish plays. And at the end of the day, it still comes down to one-on-one matchups and finishing plays.
Coach, going back to the Austin Peay game, there was a pretty significant change in your offense from the second quarter to the third. What prompted having more success in that third quarter?
You mean the Western Kentucky?
Yeah, Western Kentucky, yeah.
We just executed. You know, we didn't really get into a rhythm the first half, and I think a lot of that was a byproduct of the nature of the game. You know, every game is different. But we executed, and that was great to see. We started executing in the throw game, which was great to see. We made the plays. You know, like I spoke about, the plays I spoke about earlier in the press conference, those are all in the first half. In the second half, I thought Justin calmed down. You know, I thought he was extremely efficient. There's one throw we would have liked to head back, really two in the second half. You know, again, another great teaching tool. We drive the ball the length of the field. We have third down and long, and we're in field goal range, and we force the football. Hey, sometimes throwing the ball away is a great play because it's the only play, and we had 3 points in our pocket. Let's take the 3 points. That's the maturation of a quarterback. But we just executed.
But it also looked like you slowed the tempo down, a lot more freeze play or check at the line of scrimmage type stuff. What was going on there in the third?
We just slowed it down to give our defense a break. You know, and I think that's the thing is, you know, playing great defense is also at times an offense protecting its defense. And we wanted to slow the game down a little bit. And we knew Western Kentucky had an explosive offense, you know, very efficient. And so we just wanted to slow the game down a little bit.
Wasn't for Justin?
No. No.
Butch, a lot of teams schedule a prominent non-conference opponent, but when you took the job and looked at the schedule, were you surprised to see Oregon and Florida back-to-back, both on the road?
Well, it's a great challenge. And, you know, we're asking a lot of our players, you know, and it's going to be a great challenge, but we'll find out more where we're at. And it is what it is. The only thing we can focus is preparation for Oregon and playing winning football. But, you know, you look at just the overall nature of our schedule this year. Like I told you, some people said it's the most difficult schedule in the history of college football. And that's why, you know, I keep talking about demanding from ourselves championship habits, focusing on the process, being able to withstand and persevere and show great resiliency, you know, because our schedule dictates that as well. But, you know, schedules are so set out and laid out far in advance, years in advance, that a lot of times that's just the way, you know, it occurs, and there's nothing that we can do about it. But again, it's also a great opportunity too, you know, and it's putting Tennessee on the national stage, you know, going and playing the number 2 team in the country. So, you know, there's some benefits that come from it as well.
They have so many weapons, whether it's Thomas, Mariota, or some of the new guys they have stepping in. I mean, how well do those guys complement each other, and how much more difficult does that make it to defend when it's not just one
Well, it makes it
guy?
extremely challenging. You know, and that's the thing, is not only do they have great backs and great receivers, athletic tight ends, but they have a running quarterback. You know, so now you talk about discipline from a defense and executing your assignments. You know, one missed assignment can be catastrophic to a defense. You know, one guy having an eye violation, you know, whether he's the pitch or the dive man or the quarterback and no backs and, you know, quarterback draw, you know, it's going to challenge our discipline. You know, and I think it limits your package too because of the tempo that in which they play with.
Tyner, number 24, I think came in last week, 4 carries, 2 touchdowns. I mean, what sticks out from looking at the film of it looks like it's just one more weapon now.
It is, and they're very, very deep. And that's the thing is, you can't key on one individual. And they do a great job of mixing their personnel up, rotation of receivers at times, and again, when you have a quarterback who's a dual threat, who can run and can pass, that makes it doubly challenging for your defense.
What should they do pre-snap to try and confuse you? I mean, formation-wise, motion, is that a big concern on top of the tempo?
No, our defense is used to that. They just, they always give you the mindset that they're always attacking, and we have to have an attack mode back, defensively. And we have to be poised, we have to be calm, we have to be collective, and we have to be confident.
Is that something you talk to a lot, having an attacking mindset defensively? That seems like that might be a big hump to get over against them.
We talk about that all the time, not just because we're playing Oregon, we talk about it each and every week.
Butch, how would you assess Daniel McCullers so far? And on third downs, he comes out a lot. Would you like to someday see him be in there on third downs, or is that just not the best part of his game?
Well, Dan has really improved his pass rush skills, but Salisbury's been giving us some great reps in our 3-down and our third down package, and we've tried to rotate our defensive linemen to keep them fresh. Dan continues to be work in progress. Dan is still one of those individuals though who needs to learn that your practice habits are critical to carrying over to your game day performance. And Dan is doing things that I have not seen him done off of film in a positive note. I think he's playing with greater effort. I think his mindset, his physicality is improved, and he's very, very prideful. He doesn't say a lot, but he listens and he holds to every word that you say. But we're still trying to teach him the importance of practice, and he's going through the exact same learning curve that John Hughes, who's now starting defensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns, who was with us at Cincinnati. He's going through the same maturation process that Derek Wolfe went through his first year with us, who's now with the Denver Broncos. And they had great senior years. And we expect and we demand a lot from Dan because he's very capable of being a difference maker. And I've been pleased right now with his progress, in a very relative early stage of the season.
How much more pressure is on McCullers and Hood to get on first and second down to get be disruptive there in the middle of the line?
Well, it is, and everything is about staying ahead of change. And in the first half, last week, we did a great job of winning first down. It was second and long, where we ran into issues in the first half of the Western Kentucky game was third and long and second and long. And, you work so hard to get ahead of the sticks, now you have to cash in on that. And so that will be a point of emphasis. But, if you can win first down and stay ahead of the sticks, whether it's offensively or defensively, pretty much playing the law of percentages, you're going to be successful.
Butch, how realistic is it that you maybe get Kurt Legit, Jacquez, Vereen, any or all three back this year?
Well, we totally anticipate having Jacquez Smith back, and he's been cleared to practice. He'll practice today. Kurt Magid will be another, see how he progresses throughout the week of practice. He's continually getting better and progressing. Corey Vereen, we'll know a little bit more about his how he progresses throughout the week of practice. But I'm very encouraged by all three individuals.
So you mentioned the important missed tackles earlier. I mean, how big of a deal, particularly in the secondary, is that this week to keep the
critical
8-yard game from being
critical? The secondary is the last line of defense. And so we have to be sure tacklers. We have to understand how to leverage the football. Most big plays given up by a defense are usually by mental errors, missed assignments, or lost leverage on the football, and then missed tackles. We have to do a great job this week of really, we stress it every week, but really leveraging the football and getting 11 hats to the ball.
I know you're a newcomer to the conference, but what's your reaction when you see Georgia falling to Clemson, Florida falling to Miami? Do you think it's any reflection of the conference's strength this year? Or?
No. I've been so focused on us. SEC is the best football conference in the country. And, it's just, I've lived in a bunker You know, all my focus has been on Austin P and Western Kentucky and now Oregon. My car knows home, office, and so I don't even pay much particular attention to really what's going on. I've been so focused with getting this football team ready to play.
Butch, at Cincinnati, you kind of always had a kind of a workhorse tailback, whether it was Pete or Wynn last year. This year, it looks like, you know, Marlon and Rajon are kind of more in a timeshare. Do you have a preference? Would you rather have a guy that can carry it 25 times a game, or do you like having kind of a platoon back there?
Well, I think in today's world of college football, in the durability aspect and the pounding that the running backs take, not only are they getting hit on every snap when they run the football, but they're involved in pass protection. They're out on the perimeter. You need more than one running back. Really, in a perfect world, in our offense, we need 3 to 4 running backs. And Marlon and Rajon right now are really complementing each other. And I believe combined they had like 170 yards rushing. And the great thing is they're feeding off of each other. They're encouraging each other. So, you know, we like to think of a 1-1 punch, you know. And so, you know, but moving forward with our football team, you know, we have to have the ability to recruit a number of top quality running backs because we want to use them like we do in our offense. So, you know, we want to use 3, 4. Sometimes we've used up to 5 running backs if we're able to.
You talked about wanting them to run more north and south. Did you kind of see that from
I did. You know, I thought that was some of the major strides that we took from game 1 to game 2. You know, I thought Rajon got more north and south. He ran behind his pads. I thought Marlon Lane did the same thing. So I thought we took strides in that area.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.